that, and then let me. Okay. Okay. So we wanna get started at time. So I just wanted to say, first of all, Chibeze, we are very, very proud and honored and privileged to have this opportunity. Thank you for the beautiful time that we're going to get to spend together here today, and the opportunity where we'd get to hear a lot of the insights, the experiences that you have to share with us in the world about the really important, not just important, but also I think pioneering initiatives that you've led in Ghana. And no doubt those are hugely inspirational, and not just to the youth of Africa, but to many around the world. And really what you've done is groundbreaking. So we're very excited about this conversation. And to get us started, I'd like to begin by welcoming you, and then also to welcome everybody who's joining us here and later to the POP Climate Leadership Conversations, which we host as a tribute to our chief mentor. And this particular conversation and series of conversations that we've had the good fortune of hosting are essentially being organized to strengthen youth leadership and explore tactics that empower the youth to take action and tackle the most pressing environmental issues faced globally. We're conducting a series of conversations, as I mentioned, and these are focused on things such as leadership strategies, recommendations, and are typically reflections and examples that focus on global leadership and a different pressing environmental issue or context in each of these unique conversations that we are privileged to host. This particular initiative is designed and implemented as a tribute to our chief mentor, late Dr. R.K. Pachauri. Today, we have the pleasure, the good fortune, and the privilege of speaking with Chibeze about the groundbreaking work that he's been conducting, and also what the implications are for effective youth activism. So just to say that this is truly a very special conversation. We have a lot of respect for what you do, Chibeze, and have actually been eagerly waiting for this particular conversation. So thank you very much. And I want to welcome you and the rest of the family who joins us here. And I'm going to hand over to Komal to help us take the conversation forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ash. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I will now introduce our guest speaker. Mr. Chibeze Ezikel coordinates the Strategic Youth Network for Development, a youth-led NGO that promotes youth inclusion in the governance of the natural resources and environment sector. He's a climate reality leader, a member of the International Experts of Environment of Peace 2022 project, series on the board of 350 ORG, and chairs the Youth in Natural Resources and Environmental Governance. He emerged as a 2020 Goldman Environmental Prize recipient for Africa. As a strong climate activist, he holds the conviction that young people must be at the heart of climate solutions and that they have a pivotal role to play in winning the fight against climate change. We are so blessed to have you today. We will have 4 areas of our conversation from the youth leaders from the POP family. Our senior mentor, Dr. Ash Pachauri, will ask the first question. Thank you so much, Dr. Ash. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Komal. This is very precious once again to be able to have this conversation and to seek a lot of the experiences and insights, Chibeze, that you have to share with the world. And with that, we'd love to hear from you about, in light of all that you've done and you've achieved and continue to pursue and aspire to do, what does leadership mean to you? And specifically, what are some of the skills in leadership that you have learned specifically on your path to climate advocacy and activism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ash, for this opportunity. And then, of course, I also thank the POP team for giving me this wonderful privilege. So I don't take it for granted at all. So, I mean, that's a very loaded question, but I think that leadership is basically about showing the way of possibility, or showing the way towards finding solutions to challenges in society. So in that particular context, for me as an advocate, leadership for me is all about how do I also show to other young people that it is possible to provide solutions, that it is possible to make some positive impact in society, regardless of your background, regardless of your age, regardless of your knowledge level, as you have something that you can use to influence society and to bring about the required change. So those are for me what practical leadership is all about. And then in terms of the qualities of leadership, based on my experience, I would say that they are one, you must have the conviction of what you stand for, what you believe in, because you cannot pursue a cause without having that conviction, and you must have that conviction that will propel you towards that intended aim. And then also you must be consistent. I mean, one key quality is about being consistent with your mission, with your message, and that is something people always look out for, because if you're always changing your mind, changing your thoughts, changing your position, then you look inconsistent and people are not too sure of what to stand for. But if you want to be a good leader, you must be consistent in what you do. And again, I think the other quality has to do with being diligent in your work, putting all the effort you need, being very systematic, being very, pragmatic, in the work that you do. Because in my work, one of the things I realized that even though I may be the one, going about my work, there are other people also following, also watching me from afar. So how I coordinate or how I manage or how I carry myself becomes more like a sign for others following me. So far, I mean, I would say there are more, but these are the ones I can quickly, say for now. Thank you.
I think that this is just beautiful. You absolutely have talked about very, very practical elements of what your experience has taught you about leadership and leadership skills. And as you speak about them, I actually relate to what you have not just gained, but also demonstrated in the work that you've achieved. And I know, and all that you continue to strive to achieve, because I know that there's no way you would have got here if you didn't have these very practical tools in your pocket, which is, demonstrate what that leadership, lead by example, be very clear in amplifying that position that you have, so that people are able to, not just learn what that vision is, but then also have clarity on what they are following as a consequence of what you stand for and what you demonstrate. And I think that these are, it's very interesting to hear, exactly what that experience is. I can hear your experience through what you've described. And I just want to thank you, because I know that you're somebody who not, like I said at the start, not just demonstrates leadership to the youth of Ghana, but across Africa and the world. So I'm just really happy that we have this chance also to hear how you've applied those leadership skills in your work as we hear more about your work. And I think that will really give a lot of people insight and be able to be inspired to do what they believe in, which is part of what you believe leadership is about. Because like you said, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, if you have conviction in what you want to do and you're clear about it, then there should be nothing that stops you from doing it, because you can. Thank you very much, Chibeze, for that beautiful insight. And so with that, I'd love to ask Komal to talk to me about who we should bring in next for the next question. And we're excited, Chibeze, to hear more about your experience going forward. Thank you. Over to you, Komal.
Thank you, Dr. Ash. Thank you, Chibeze. Now I will ask Ivan to take the next question, please.
Thank you so much, Komal, and it is an honor for me to be here with you. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience with us. So I wanted to ask you, could you please tell us more about how you were inspired to become an activist and how your work led you achieve the closing of a coal plant?
All right. Thank you so much for the question. This question will be a whole lecture. It can take me the whole day to talk about it, but I guess I have to try and summarize my response to that. I first got introduced to the concept of climate change in 2009 by the World Bank in Ghana and the British High Commission. I had no clue about climate change. I didn't know what climate change was all about. But the World Bank began a program which was to identify young people in I think it was about 7 African countries. They brought us together to build our capacity on climate change. So the whole program was youth master trainers on climate change. So the whole idea was to build our capacity so we can go back to our respective communities or countries to also educate more young people on the impact of climate change. So that was my first introduction to climate change, climate change. And then in 2013, I again got a chance to attend the Global Power Shift Conference, which took place in Istanbul, Turkey, under the auspices of 350.org. And it was at that conference that I met about 500 young people from different parts of the world who were also pursuing climate actions in different ways. So it was at that meeting that I again got more information about climate action, what the young people are doing in their part of the world. And again, that became a wake-up call for me that, look, I mean, so this conversation is not just about us in Ghana, but there are thousands or hundreds of young people doing similar things in their respective countries. So how can I also, put in more effort and more, commitment in that particular, situation. So at that workshop, where there were categories of the training program, but I chose a policy advocacy because I wanted to know more about policy, how to influence policy, how to engage our policymakers. So I chose that option and I went to that training. We were 7 from Ghana that went for that training. And then when we came back to Ghana in 2013, we decided to keep the momentum, to keep the group together. So we formed a chapter or a movement, being the local chapter of 350 in Ghana. And strangely enough, it was that same year that we got media information that the government of Ghana is planning to build a coal plant in Ghana. And then we now started monitoring the whole process. The news died out. And then in somewhere in 2015, that about the information, the news came back again. And then we down realized the government was now serious to build a coal plant. So what can we do as advocates, to challenge the construction of the coal plant? But I must indicate that one of the things that I did, as an advocate was to, take a step back and be deliberate and to be sure that this is a very big battle we're going to engage ourselves in, especially if it has to do with government's interests. How best can we go about a campaign to achieve our purpose? What innovative ideas can we, employ, to be able to achieve, our objective? So one of the things I did was what I call the submarine approach. As you know about the submarine, that's the what they call the water. What they call it? More like a ship, but it's always under the water. So what that meant was, usually when government comes up with a policy directive and the CSOs are not happy, they quickly react, publicly. They organize a press conference, they go on the street and demonstrate. But when that announcement came out publicly, we didn't go out, we didn't demonstrate. We took a step back and started doing our own investigation, doing our own research. Because Ghana didn't have a coal plant by then, we started reaching out to partners in South Africa, in Kenya, who had coal plants, to also learn from them, and then we also went into the community where government was planning to build a coal plant to engage the people in the community, the chiefs, the elders, the women groups, the religious bodies, to also get their sense of understanding, whether they have received all the information that they need to know, because it's also their right to be well informed about the project. So we did all this on the quiet, so that's what I call the submarine approach. So by the time we came out publicly, we had enough information, we had enough ammunition to justify or to buttress our point. So when we speak, we're able to justify our works, our works with some facts that we have based on our interaction with the people in the community. And again, the other approach is also to get the trust and the support of the community people. Because once the community people were behind us, that gives us assurance that indeed this campaign was going to be very successful. So that was one other approach we adopted, the people's power, reaching the power of the people in the community to say no, to a project that is likely to have any negative impact on them. So those were the approaches that we adopted. So by the time we came out publicly to do our press conference and media engagement, we had a lot of information, we had a lot of ammunition to buttress our points. And then finally, also, one of the things we did was we were not only saying no to coal, but we were also providing alternative. And that's one thing that a number of CSOs fail to do. Don't just say no, but when you say no, then you provide a better alternative. Then at least the government will start thinking through about, that, okay, these guys are not only saying no, they're not only objecting, but they're also preferring some alternative that they think would be more feasible or more appropriate for us as a nation. Because during that time, Ghana was going through severe power crisis. Companies were collapsing. People were losing their jobs. The whole economy was virtually grinding to a halt. So government felt that the only way to remedy the situation was to build a coal plant, because one, they said it is cheaper to build a coal plant or to generate energy through coal plants. And number two, they also indicated that it's going to lead to employment for the young people. So how best can we say that this is not good for the country when companies are collapsing? And then we said, fine. We do agree that we're all going through this crisis, but we believe that the better alternative is to shift towards renewable energies as compared to coal plants. And we have to justify our position. Because economically, it is true that using coal to generate power is cheap. Economically, in terms of economics, it makes sense. But we also made a case that the government also forgot about the externalities. Because when we talk about coal plants, there's the emissions. And when there's emissions, we're talking about air pollution, affecting people's lungs, respiratory problems. Those are costs. It's going to affect the health of people. And for that matter, the Ministry of Health will have the additional responsibility to look for money to take care of people suffering from health consequences because of air pollution. So that's a cost element, which was not factored in economics. Number two, when we talk about employment, the coal plant we said will not be long. If you talk one, we raised two issues. We don't have enough expertise in Ghana to run a coal plant. And normally when that happens, we are going to bring experts or experts from outside the country to manage a coal plant. So employment will not necessarily benefit the people of Ghana or the youth in Ghana. And two, we are also aware that normally the coal plant might take about 2-3 years to build. And when that, in the course of building a coal plant, they may end up employing large number of young people to build a coal plants. And when they finish build a coal plant, they're going to lay them off. So after 3 years, if you lay people off, then you cannot use that as a basis to see you are creating employment for young people. If you want to create employment for young people, we believe that renewable energy is the best way to create employment and sustain employment for young people. If you mention solar energy alone, you're talking about building the solar system, you're talking about installation, you're talking about maintenance. We have biomass, biofuel, wind energy. All those different aspects of renewable energy are promises vast amount of job creation. So if it is about jobs, then we think renewable energy is a better alternative. And again, we also know about the waste from the coal plants. The waste usually are deposited in water bodies. And we're also aware that in our country, We have people who depend on water bodies for bathing, for cooking, for washing. Even animals drink for the water bodies. If you end up polluting these water bodies, it's going to affect people who depend on the water bodies for their source of livelihood. And even animals may die from that process. So there's more consequences with the coal plant as against renewable energy. So we made a case why we think renewable energy is far better than coal plant. So we believe that some of these arguments we made were some of the reasons why government actually heeded to our call. And then we are now even promoting more renewable energy in our country's energy mix at the moment as I speak. Yeah, thank you.
It is amazing how, on one hand, you're showing us the power of one person and with your leadership, and in the other hand, the power of the community of coming together to act for a common goal, which in this case was the best for the society in general, and not only society, but also biodiversity in the community and in environment. It's also really impressive, what you do. I think it's not, at least to my knowledge, is not that common that activists act in this, like with this submarine strategy. I have never heard of that, but it makes total sense. And it's not only that you educated people at such high extent that they were actually able to make the best informed decision for them and for everyone, but also that you, even besides that, you went further and gave options to the people. That is also really impressive. So thank you so much for your inspiring conversation. And back to Kamal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Chibeze, for inspiring us. Now we have Trisha, who will take the next question.
Thank you, Komal. Greetings, Chibeze. It's nice to listen to all that you have to share, because there are so many insights and layers to it to actually absorb. My question to you is, what are the main challenges that the youth face as they try to create changes in the climate agenda, and how can we overcome these?
Okay, all right. So thanks, Trisha, for that question. In terms of the challenges that young people face, one is the capacity or the knowledge gap to engage in the process when it comes to climate action. And when I say knowledge, usually there's some disparity looking at the global north and the global south. One of the things I've observed is that if you look at the global level, when I say like international conferences, and you read the outcome documents, it is usually very often to see them captured in their document that when it comes to the decision-making process, it is important to involve men, women, young people. So at the global level, it is well acknowledged. That is why we have the youth constituency at the UNFCCC that are well represented, well recognized during the COP meetings. So they have that room to operate. In Africa, the Africa Youth Charter, specifically Article 11, states very clearly that the youth have a right to participate in the decision-making process. But unfortunately, that is not well operationalized. In my own country, Ghana, so we have our national youth policy way back in 2010. There's also a provision in that policy that says that the youth should be allowed, or the youth must participate in the decision-making process. Again, that is not happening. So even though we have those instruments available, practically the youth are not part of the process for a number of reasons. One is that the youth don't have the capacity, because why should they bring the youth among technocrats, to make such critical decisions? They feel that the youth don't have that capacity. So that becomes a stumbling block for youth inclusion. And number two, the youth have also been classified as being social deviants, or they're usually rowdy, they're usually aggressive. So you are not the gentleman, let me call that way, in the room. Don't want to bring young people who may want to be aggressive around the table, and because when it comes to demonstration, when it comes to routes, so when you see people shouting climate action on the street, usually it's young people. So that impression is that, okay, let's not bring these guys into the room, lest they create chaos or confusion in the boardroom. So we have all this, especially in our part of the world, limiting youth inclusion in the process. So in order to address that issue, we as my team members, what we did was, how do we rectify or how do we address this challenge? The first thing we did was, one, to start developing, or let me use the word, speaking the language of policymakers. The language of policymakers, that they articulate themselves through developing policies, position papers, policy briefs. And so in that same line, we also took that same dimension or that same approach by developing position papers, policy briefs, to suggest or make comments or make contributions from the youth perspective, to demonstrate to them that, yes, the youth are not bad as they claim, or not all the youth are bad as they think, but there are a few who are very knowledgeable, who have some vested interest, who are also concerned about the welfare of our country, about the welfare of our climate. And therefore, we are also providing some ideas that will help the state to achieve its climate obligations. So that process helped us to gain the attention that we have today, and which has actually given us a spot that anytime government is having a conversation or a work on climate change, there's always a provision for youth inclusion. Number two, what the other step we took was that normally when government develops a policy document or a strategy document or an action plan, they come in volumes, 100 pages, 200 pages, 300 pages. So the question is, how do we expect a young person to take such a book and read? I mean, and it's not as if it's a love story book that will be too enticing or too easy for them to read, but these are all technical documents full of jargons. So it doesn't appeal to young people. So we pick those big documents, those policies, simplify them, make them very simple, and then we'll go to communities to engage young people, educate them, to bring them up to speed on some of the government policies, and more importantly, what they can do in their own small way in those communities to help achieve government's intention. So we try to bridge the gap between the state and the people living in the community, so the youth are also not left behind as the SDG seeks to achieve, and that they can also have their voices heard wherever they are, whether at the national level or the local level. They can have access to these simplified documents. And we are doing a lot, actually. As I speak to you, we are developing more of such simplified documents to engage the youth at the local level. And that approach has actually worked for us, and as I speak, and as I said earlier on, now in all the climate change work in Ghana, the NDCs, the NAP processes, we always have a representation, or we are always called upon to make our comments or views heard in the process. So that's how we have addressed such a challenge in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Chibeze. This is a very important point that you mentioned, how review of the policy and policy brief and understanding the language is important when it comes to youth, because of all the gap areas that you mentioned related to knowledge and capacity building. Really, really important. Now I would like to hand it over to Komal.
Thank you, Trisha. Thank you, Chibeze. Now, Ale will ask the next question. Ale?
I want to ask, what are the key components of effective acting, and how can these be implemented?
Ale, are you there?
Yes, I think Alice spoke. She's here.
She's here and trying to speak.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Ali's question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ali.
Hi.
Yeah, I asked, what are the key components of effective activism, and how can these be implemented?
Well, thank you, Ali. So the key components of effective activism, like I mentioned, yes, you must be yourself as the activist. You must have the conviction. You must be consistent. You must be passionate about what you stand for, because you're going to face opposition. And so once you face opposition, if you really believe in what you are fighting for, nothing will weigh you down, nothing will make you to backtrack. So those are for me the strong components, when it comes to activism. The rest in terms of having access to people of high places, comes automatically. But as an activist, you must have the strong conviction, you must be consistent, you must be very deliberate, on what you are pursuing. And so for me, that has been my experience. And then that is for me the key components. So in terms of how they can be implemented, so if somebody is convicted about something, you can see it from the person, because people who, and I'm not too sure about India, but in Africa, when it comes to culture, there are some people who are very dearly to. Nothing can change their mind, You see them demonstrate. It doesn't matter where they find themselves, they're very committed to it. So it's like a Muslim. It doesn't matter where he lives or where she lives. If he has to pray 5 times a day, he prays 5 times a day. If there's some rituals he has to do or some obligations he has to do, he does them, irrespective of where he finds himself. So those are, once you do them, once you practice them, then it becomes part and parcel of you. So I would say that it's not enough to believe, something that's demonstrating what you believe in. Have a conviction and then take it forward. Be consistent in your values, of course, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And sometimes because of lack of enough information, you may slip one with the other, but that should not, keep you out of the process. You can bounce back and still proceed, because eventually all we are doing is that we want to get a better place or a better planet for all of us. And I don't know who else in this world doesn't want a good environment. So having that at the back of your mind should give you that kind of strength to still pursue, your activism.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And thank you, Ale, for the question. I think that you mentioned a very important point, which is that getting back up is also really key. And, it takes grit, and it takes conviction, and it takes perseverance. And I think this has been a great question. And thank you, Ale, for asking, and Chibeze for sharing your insights. Let me ask Dr. Norma, who has a question as well, to go next. Okay, no. So who's going to go? Komal will go first. Okay. She's asking to ask. Okay. All right, Komal then. Thank you.
I think, Dr. Norma would like to have the next question.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you, Komal. Thank you, Dr. Ash. Thank you, Chibeze. Well, nice to meet you. Really, it's a pleasure to have you today with us. And for me, it's very clear that determination is a very important quality to achieve your goals. And we can see that this determination is something that you share with others in order to put them in the right way to fight against climate change, environmental issues, and of course, an environmental activism. My question will go in a very simple way to ask you, what role do intergenerational and intersectional cooperation play in creating transparent and effective movements? Thank you, Chibeze.
Thank you, Dr. Norma, for your question.
Your mic is closed. Sorry.
Okay, all right.
You need to turn up the volume.
I got a question. Thanks, Dr. Ash, for the question.
Chibeze, can you switch on your audio, please?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Can you
hear my question? Yeah, could you hear my question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
I got a question.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome,
please
Doc.
go ahead.
Thanks, Doc. All right, thanks. Yes. I started getting used to the word intergenerational, I think about a month or two ago, because I predominantly we focus on young people. So it was recently that we started adding the other generational groups to our campaign work. In terms of how their role of intergenerational and intersectional cooperation, how they can play their role in creating transparent and effective movements. I think their role has to do with one, they demonstrating or amplifying the importance of bridging the gap, or carrying all the three generations along. If I say three generations, I'm talking about children, young people, and the older generation. For that reason, we have actually started a program in that perspective. We have the Children for Climate Action, which we launched in September 2019 as part of the global week, climate week celebration that UN organizes every year in September. So we have our children, the children components, C4C, and Children for Climate Action. And then we have our youth platform on climate change and other environmental actions. And then about 2 months ago, we also launched the Parents for Future movement in Ghana, which is now for the older generation. So we have all the three components of the generations, children, young people, and the parents or the older generation. So for that reason, we are trying to rally all the three generations around the climate change campaign to see how climate is impacting on children, impacting on young people, impacting on the older generation, and how all these three generations, children, young people, and the older generation, can also take steps to help address the impact of climate change. The main concern of the older generation is that how can they create a better environment for their children? And for the children, what can they also do to ensure that they don't end up continuing repeating the mistakes of the older generation, but pursuing a new path or a new behavior or attitude that will lead to environmental protection? So for us, we are trying to demonstrate that intergenerational work through our own programmatic areas and to demonstrate the role we have in creating a transparent and effective movement. So once that concept is adopted and people believe that they also have a role to play, not look at individual interests, but our collective interest, that whatever we are doing, if for the welfare is for our own well-being, our own welfare, I think that particular effort or that particular role will help us to achieve the kind of transparency and effective movement we need for that to happen. And the same thing applies to the intersectional groups or the various sessions. I mean, once the groups come together and they see the importance of coming together, I think that can also in the long way help to address the climate impact. So that is in my view what we are doing to demonstrate the role of the intergenerational groups for climate transparency or climate action. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for your answer. Yeah, it's for us, like for you, that life is teaching and learning all time, at every moment, in all sense, and that we can teach children, and we can help young people, and we can help also adults, because not all adults know exactly what environmental topics are or climate change is. And yeah, really, we need to help together, to work together to help people. And I agree with you in all sense, you and with Dr. Ash, that life is teaching by example. The example that we give to children and that we give to young people, even at home, is very important for them. And no other way to act in life, teaching by example. That is the key. And thank you so very much for your beautiful work. And yeah, we appreciate your presence here. Thank you, Chibeze. Thank you, Dr. Ash. Thank you, Komal.
Thank you so much, Dr. Norma. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dr. Norma. That Chibeze is an example of leadership and he exemplifies it. And I think that that's really essential, especially in everything that you set out to do. And Chibeze, we'd love to hear a little bit, as we wind down this conversation, but pick up many more things. What is your current location, the name of the organization you work with? I'd love for people who are listening to hear more. Anybody who wants to reach out should have that reference. And we'd love for you to share just a little bit more about the organization, because I know you carry people with you in everything you do. So tell us a little bit more about where you're at right now and how people can reach you, and also be able to make a connection with you and the beautiful people you work with, please.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ash, for this opportunity. So in terms of where we are now, we are located in Accra, Ghana. And to reach me, so my personal email is Chibeze. I'm not sure whether I should put it on the chat box. Just chibeze@gmail.com. And also, and we work in 4 thematic areas, which are climate change, biodiversity, forestry, and then energy. We have different programs or projects around all these 4 areas. So for climate change, we have like I mentioned, the Children for Climate Action. We have the Youth and Reg platform. We have the Parents for Future movement. And then we are also leading on the Action for Climate Empowerment. And last year at COP26, there was an action point in the Glasgow Climate Pact that countries must report on how they are pursuing the ACE program. So at the country level, we are pursuing that process. And I'm also happy to announce that there's this forum known as the Climate Vulnerable Forum, which is targeted at vulnerable countries impacted by climate change. Every 2 years is rotated among parties. So Ghana became the party that was chosen this year for the next 2 years after Bangladesh. So Ghana is hosting the CVF forum for the next 2 years. We are also involved with the national focal point on some of the programs they want to start implementing and how they can involve young people. As a matter of fact, on the 11th of August, coming Thursday, we are having a meeting with the focal point to take us through the ACE process and the CVF, and how, as young people, we can also report on our actions. So for that to be captured and reported to the UNFCCC. So when it comes to climate change, these are some of the things we are doing. We are also working on climate finance, engaging on Ghana's climate financing program, the Green Climate Fund, the World Bank's work with the government, and of course EFDB. We are also simplifying the mechanisms of the EFDB and the World Bank to engage other CSOs at a local level, so they can also track some of the projects that these banks are financing. So that's more around the climate change aspect. And then for the energy, we are also actually working around clean cooking. We are also working around energy efficiency. We are also looking at oil and gas issues. And then we are also, those are the three key areas we are working on when it comes to energy. Just last week, or this past week, yes, we did a national consultation on the energy transition discussions with emphasis on gas. As some of you may be aware, the EU recently declared gas as a green fuel or sustainable energy. What does that mean for us as a nation, especially when we are exploring oil and gas in commercial quantities? What does it mean for us? Because in Ghana, our energy mix is made up of the hydro, thermal plants, and then renewable energy. But the thermal plants makes about 60% of our power generation. And the thermal plants are powered with gas. They run on gas. So if we are to shut down on gas, what does it mean for us as a country, for our energy sector? So we had a consultation, and I want to present that paper or our position. There's a meeting in Durban, in South Africa, somewhere in this month, and also we want to present that at COP27 in Egypt. So when it comes to energy, we look around some of these issues. When it comes to forestry, we are now working on some forest restoration projects in a very community. And the forest has been degraded because of illegal mining, because people cut felling trees for charcoal production. But if we go to a community, we've spoken to the chiefs and elders to give us the opportunity to actually reforest, that whole land once again, so people in the community can have access to the forest and get the whole biodiversity back to its feet. So that's one key project we are running under the forestry section. And then for biodiversity itself, we are currently running a campaign known as the Banks and Biodiversity No-Go Policy. So the whole idea is that we have banks that finance private sector, that finance companies, but we want banks to take additional effort to ensure that when they are lending money, when they are financing, when they are giving loans, those loans or those projects must not lead to environmental destruction. Companies must be conscious, they must be aware that their projects may have impact on the environment. So banks also have a key role. Usually we leave them out. We focus on the government, we focus on the private sector, forgetting the financing institutions, that's the banks. So this is a project that tries to create awareness among the banks so they can also play a key role in the kind of environmental protection that we all seek to have in the years to come. So these are some pockets of interventions we are running in all these thematic areas that we work on. So yeah, and these are projects run by young people who are also very passionate, who are also very committed to the cause of promoting environmental sustainability and protecting our ecosystems. So basically, that is to give a fair idea, a rundown of what we are doing at the moment in Ghana. Thank you.
Wow, that's really you have a lot on your plate, and it's definitely a very comprehensive range of things that you're working on. And I think that given the brief window of opportunity we have, it's also so crucial that we work on a multi-pronged approach like you're working on, because there's no way that we're going to be able to address the issues at hand unless we do that. And it's beautiful that you carry so many people with you. We're very grateful to have your contact for people who are listening, to be able to follow your work, reach out to you, and to support you in doing more of what you're doing. And there's no doubt that time is of the essence. And so, I think this conversation is key to amplifying the beautiful example that you exemplify, and share it with the world, that it is possible if you were to just put your mind to it and your heart, and align the two to really pursue what you believe in, take action, and then keep getting back up. Because like you said, the truth of the matter is, the work and all the forces that you contend with wear you down. So, I just want to say that all that you've said really truly counts. And for all young people who are listening, take away from the beautiful example that Chibeze exemplifies, and join forces. I think that Chibeze is an amazing example of someone who certainly leads a lot on the ground in Ghana, but provides a phenomenal example to young people and adults around the world, that the cross-generational approach is key, that all of us have a role to play, and things can be done if we come together and strengthen this movement and the force that is a force to contend with if we come together. So this is really a beautiful conversation that we cherish. And I'm going to encourage everybody who is listening to please also reach out to Chibeze and find ways to support the beautiful, relentless effort that he, just sort of in an unstoppable manner pushes forward to achieve every day. And Chibeze, as we close out, I'd love for you to share anything that you want to share as a message to our listeners, for those who are joining us. and your voice counts. So I'll hand over to you to share final message, final words that you'd like to convey now. And with that, of course, great gratitude.
All right, so I want to say a very big thanks to the POP team for organizing this important meeting. It's always a joy to learn and share. Just as I'm always happy to share what I've done or what I know, I also want to learn from others. So it's always a good thing to learn, to get such platform to also learn from what others are doing, so that we can have cross-pollination of ideas and towards a common agenda. So I'm very grateful to the POP team for this exercise. And to also thank Komal. She has been following up with me and giving the space and time to arrange for the meetings. And so thanks, Komal. That is I owe you a special kente cloth from Ghana when I meet you. So you have okay. So to also thank the cherished viewers and the listeners who join us. I mean, for me, the key message that we are all in the same boat. Let's do our best to stop the boat from sinking. We can do that in diverse ways, based on the skills you have, based on your expertise, based on your knowledge. If for nothing at all, at least you have a smartphone. You can also educate. You can also share. You can also inform others about why we must all take climate action. And usually people think that climate change is for a certain group of people. But I also want to say that if you're able to internalize the whole concept around climate change, and you will see that it actually benefits you. And I'll just give one or two examples. Number one, I mean, we have been told, for example, that if you're able to tilt your house, if you are building a house, I mean, we call it green building. But for you as an individual, if you build a house where you can get enough sunshine into your room or into your house, it saves you energy because you're no more going to depend more on your light in your room because you're getting source from the sun. So in so doing, it's a climate action, but it's also saving you money. If we are also if you're also able to position your house in a certain way where you attract more wind into your room or more air into your room from the environment, it saves you energy from fan or from air conditioning. So it's a climate action, but at the same time also saving you money. So you always look at it from that perspective that even though I'm taking that action, I'm also saving money to myself. I'm also getting clean air. I'm also getting some benefit. So when we say don't waste water, it's for your own good, it's for our own benefit. So let's see ourselves as part of the process and not just climate action for a certain group of people who are trying to save the world. Let's all be in the same boat and fight that cause together, for our sake and also for the sake of the unborn generation. So that would be my closing remarks for all of us. Thank you so much, Dr. Ash.
Thank you. I think that is such an important message to close with because we should not be detaching ourselves from this issue in any which way, and it's so important for us to recognize that this is very much an issue that belongs to all of us, and that also, like you said, on the flip side is the benefits. There's so many benefits, and these are often externalized, which should be the case, because at the end of the day, also action of this nature is not just immediately and financially attractive, but also in the longer term, the ramifications are many that we might not be able to fathom or experience as tangible today. So be it clean air, like you said, has implications for health, and ultimately, these are all externalities. At the end of the day, you might say, oh, I could use the air conditioner, or I could do this, that, or the other. But at the end of the day, we're generating greater emissions. We're doing all of that, but if we consider just small changes in our lives, we not only make a positive difference to ourselves individually, we make positive differences collectively. And at the end of the day, these are, in fact, financially also attractive. So we must see that green is clean, but it's also financially not just viable, but an attractive alternative. And I think that these are such important messages, and it's very clear indication of how you've carried communities with you in all that you've done. Because again, I just want to sort of reflect on some of the important things you said. A lot of times we find the perception around youth and also communities that may demonstrate or strike or amplify their voices come in either without solutions as alternatives, or come in without full information, and definitely often we find come in without viable solutions that can be presented as options to what they may be protesting about. So I think, coming in fully informed, coming in prepared, which you described as a submarine approach, is so important, because we carry people with us, we educate them, we come up with viable, sustainable, and attractive alternatives. And this is not, and of course you're communicating with many people because you're communicating on the grassroots with communities carrying them with you. But at the same time, there's a preparedness to engage in policy discussion, because there's a preparedness for how to communicate with policymakers. And I can see that, it's such an integrated approach. It's such a multi-pronged approach. There's much that goes in, as you might write a paragraph that ultimately makes it to the desk of policymakers, but there's a whole universe behind that, behind this 300 words or 200 words that might be presented. So I think that this is such a key message, and for all those who are looking to do things, have your eyes and ears open, be embracing. I think Chibeze's example is one that's not just integrative, it's comprehensive, it carries people with you, it allows to strengthen movement, and it's effective in achieving results because of the many dimensions that are captured, addressed, and then tackled. Chibeze, this has been absolutely beautiful. We want to thank you for being a precious part of the POP family. We're no doubt eagerly looking forward to doing many more things together. I think today is groundbreaking in the sense of allowing us to have time with you, gather insights which not only are meaningful for us as a family, but in amplifying your voice to our global family. And so needless to say, we're very excited about all that lies in store. We are together with you in mind, heart, and soul. And we want to thank you for being at the heart of our family. We have the greatest love, respect, and admiration, and want to be able to support everything you do. So, and I invite all those who are listening to do the same. I want to thank everybody who's been here to join us in this room right now for the beautiful questions, the amazing reflections, and Chibeze for everything that you stand for, everything you are. And to capture this moment, if for those who are able to switch on your cameras, if you can do that, we'd love to get a picture. And needless to say, Chibeze will send you the picture and also a link to the conversation. So as to allow
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chibeze. And let's get this picture for whoever can turn on the cameras, please. Thank you. I'm going to share that with you, and my love, my blessings, and more beauty and strength to the phenomenal initiatives that you lead.